Woo! Good morning. It's New Year's Eve. What do you all have planned? What do you have planned? Anyone going to dinner? Anyone go party it up? Going to the movies? Gonna go clubbing? Gonna be like Brooks and OJ and put on our new Christmas pajamas and lay our asses in bed? You guys can tell me all about it tomorrow. Hey, PJ, very important announcement. PJ is going to be on the show tomorrow. I'm super excited about it. Kat said, same as Danny Dane, going to be in bed. Mirror Camp, sleeping by 8. Yeah, screw that ball. I can sit there and watch that ball drop. No. Christina's having a wild one. She said, assembling furniture at my kid's house, LOL. Hey, I'm telling you. Jovi said, I'm going to my son's to spend it with my grandkids. Now, that sounds like a nice time. Woo. All right. Just be careful out there because, you know, the amateur drunks will be out. You know they will. It's absolutely sick. Baby Kiss says, girlfriend, where you been? I haven't seen you in a while. She said, I'm in bed all day, every day. Aw, baby, I'm sorry. Hey, Karma. Woo, look at this. The crowd is getting in here. Just me, honey, I know. Just me recently lost her husband. She said, I'm more than ready for this year to be over. I can just imagine. Holidays are the hardest. You know, holidays are the hardest. Speaking of someone who's having a very hard holiday, our friend Gayet girl. You all know her. You all love her. Well, she has been in the hospital for several days, and she'll listen to this later. She definitely needs some cheering up and some get well wishes. So let's light it up for Gayet. And look at this. Talk about a fun time. Christina Arndt leaving for Florida from Illinois to surprise her son-in-law for his birthday. You be careful, girl. You be careful, girl. A lot of crazies out there. A lot of crazies. Well, before I get to more crazy things that are going on, as you know, let's take a second and tell all of our crazy friends, hi, hello, howdy. Happy New Year. However you want to greet your neighbor, you know, Baptist style. Oh my gosh. Hey, Jude has the Boone's Farm Barbie stuff up. How are you doing, Jude? Or are you telling me that's what you're going to do for New Year's Eve? I don't know. Let me know. Let me know. So what do y'all think about all this going on with poor little Sebastian's case? You know, we saw the video. We've heard about the green hoodie person, which was a nothing burger, according to the police. A lot of arguments. He ran away. Well, what was he running away from? And why didn't he run to his dad's house? Now, before people get upset thinking I'm picking on Seth, it is a valid question. If he retains things from memory, Baby Kisses said it's a circus. I should agree with that. I do agree with that. If he just walked out the door, locked the door behind him, all the things we've heard, conflicting stories, don't get me wrong, then why not go to his dad's? I don't know. Some people believe he was murdered in the house. There's absolutely no evidence of that. And I would think at 15 years old, he would fight back. I would think so. Now, Tennessee Bureau of Investigation confirmed that he was seen on February 26th. Now, they're not going to say who saw him. Makes you wonder, are they just taking Katie's word for it? Is there some sort of digital evidence? Or is there another witness to corroborate? I don't know. But I can tell you right now, Craftsman does not make a box big enough for all these tools. It is nuts. It is nuts, all the stuff that goes on. You've got, neighbors that are creeping out, telling people what's going on. Oh, baby kisses said to me because of the lights video. Yeah, I'm not giving up on that one either. No way. I am not giving up on that one either. I know there's a theory that he wanted Chris Proudfoot, Mr. Mullet. He wanted custody of Faith. Okay, so be it. But you're kind of on rocky ground when you have a child missing in your house. Good morning, Sam. How are you? Good morning. Make sure you guys hit the like and please share this to your socials and stuff. Tell people to come say hi. Come visit. Okay, so this has really got people going. Dog the Bounty Hunter, his teams, and At Night confirmed that Katie, the mother of Sebastian, has purportedly, that's an interesting word. I'm going to start using that more. Any words that you guys wish you could throw into your vocabulary more? I think about that movie Kill Bill when Daryl Hannah said gargantuan. I never get to really use that word. Okay, purportedly been instructed by an attorney to refrain from participating in any public forums regarding the case. All right. Now, I need a little more context here. A little more. It's very easy. I don't know who this attorney is, and I don't want to know. I certainly wouldn't say it on this show because a bunch of nutbags would be calling the attorney's office. All right? I didn't think a few people were ever going to leave the Texas Roadhouse alone. Hey, so be it. Okay, so attorneys are real big about just saying this office has no comment. But for them to say, oh, no, glad you called. Yeah, we told her not to be on any public forums, not to talk to anybody. Nah, it's simple. No comment. And don't get it twisted. I'm not taking up for Katie because I believe she knows a lot more. It says, additionally, Katie has allegedly been advised. Okay, allegedly is a big word, meaning they don't know. Been advised to invoke her Fifth Amendment rights under the United States Constitution in relation to the entirety of the ongoing investigation. Well, by now, shouldn't they have already talked to her about 1.5 million times? Seth's mother, who was told not to talk anymore. We heard that on Pascal's show. That both Katie and Chris have been investigated, interrogated, interviewed, whatever word you want to use, by authorities many times. Well, you can't unring a bell. And when I hear Fifth Amendment, I'm thinking grand jury, police are asking you things you don't want to answer. You say, no, I'm going to get an attorney. I need an attorney. Don't know. I'm going to need legal counsel. They go on to say something obvious. This is an absolute right of hers, which is rightfully irrevocable or circumstantial. Okay. So what does that mean to all of you? I have two thoughts on this. One, what mother isn't rattling every cage and ringing every bell to find her son? We're talking about the mama. We're not talking about some great ass uncle or something. Who with a missing child, missing dog, missing cat, isn't doing everything in their power. And I get the argument. People are like, well, you just don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Well, no. Nobody does. Nobody does. Not that we need to know, okay? Not that we need to know. But it's a bad look, okay? And look, it's real easy to hate on Chris Proudfoot. He's not a likable dude at all. He's arrogant. He's cocky. In my opinion, he bullied Sebastian badly. I could see Sebastian going, I'm getting out of here. I can't stand it anymore. Now, I did see some arguments with people saying, hang on, he was loved. He was well taken care of. He's missing. He's missing. Without a trace. Missing. Then we find out about this IEP meeting. Find out a lot of stuff about Seth, a lot of stuff about Chris, a lot of stuff about Katie. A lot of stuff about, Chris's past marriages. Sue said, where I live, the parents are told not to search or speak to media. This I get. I do. Because I have heard this from other parents in different cases. That they're like, no, we need someone at this house in case the child returns. That actually makes sense to me. As far as not going on the news, reputable in getting the story out there, I don't see how they could stop them. Kathy said there is always a circus going on around true facts. The cops just need to focus on the truth. Yeah, they've had a lot of wrenches thrown their way. I mean, a lot. Sonia, you read my mind. It would not matter to me what law enforcement said if it was my son. Exactly. Now, I would stay home. I would. In case he came back. Actually, in hopes that he would come back. But my ass wouldn't be sitting down in Horn Lake, Mississippi in an RV talking to Nancy Grace like an idiot saying, oh, because he could be anywhere. Well, I didn't see you looking around Kentucky, Arkansas. What in the world? That's, there was a lot missing with that. All right, so this came out yesterday. You're going to see some old clips in here. And this is the newest update.
Disappearance, though, remains sadly a confounding mystery. 15-year-old Sebastian Rogers, who vanished without a trace from his home in Hendersonville 10 months ago.
Without a trace. Without a trace. Now, let me ask you guys what you think about this. Let's put our thinking caps on, okay? When you see these conversations going on the internet, the Facebook, the Twitter, now known as X, all that stuff, and people are saying that between Sumner County, TBI, and FBI, somehow they're all in on it together that they don't want this child found. Why? Why? Need some Z's, I agree with you. Without a trace isn't a thing in 2024, especially for a 15-year-old, now 16-year-old with cameras and the whole 9 yards. It is bizarre. Kathy, he took his flashlight but no shoes? Yeah, right. Woo! Woo! You guys are on it today.
As Nick Barris tells us, his Amber Alert is still active. The case remains open. So many of you have continued to follow any developments. in what has become one of the top stories of this past year.
Sebastian Rogers, a now 16-year-old with autism, vanished from his Hendersonville home in Sumner County sometime overnight on February 26th earlier this year. It was reported he left the house barefoot and with a flashlight. There was a massive search effort from ground and air in the first 8 days after the teen disappeared.
Oh, yeah. There was a huge search. Huge. Ground, air, dogs, water, you name it. And it seems to me that they were in one central spot, which would be around from where he went missing. Who's asking for Thor? Kimberly Mann. Is it your birthday today, Kimberly? Are you a New Year's baby? Kimberly? Yeah. Thor needs to send me an email because he's won Idiot of the Week a couple of times. So he's got a t-shirt coming to him. How come nobody emails me when they win? I'm not going to come visit them. You can give me another address.
This is the system that we use to track all of our searchers.
Sumner County EMA Director Ken Widener spearheaded the search using crews on foot and drones. Divers searched ponds. Spelunkers were called in to check sinkholes.
The white dots are caved and they've all been searched.
Bloodhounds and cadaver dogs were used, but contrary to some reports,
None of them, my understanding, were actually on a trail that was following Sebastian.
search efforts then continued for months. There was simply no trace of the teen found, no scent trail, no security video, nothing. It was as though Sebastian simply vanished.
That is what I will never understand. Any way you want to theorize it, speculate, explain it to me. No scent trail. Nothing. We know he made it home. That's been made crystal clear now. So now what the hey? Where could he be? Did someone pick him up? I would think through digital evidence, they would have already figured that out, that he was communicating with somebody, whether it's through his game box, phone. I know Chris and Katie said, oh no, wasn't allowed to use the internet, wasn't allowed to do that stuff. How many of you have told your children you're not allowed to do that? And I'll be damned, they did it anyway. They did it anyway.
I'm hoping he's still alive. You know, that's my main hope right now, is that he's not deceased. I mean, I keep praying that he's alive. I keep praying that somebody's going to see him, that somebody's going to call 911.
Seth Rogers shares custody of his son Sebastian, who was staying with his mother and stepfather the night he disappeared. His mother was the only one home when Sebastian went missing. Authorities say all three parents have fully cooperated.
Any evidence of foul play?
We have not cleared anyone, but we have absolutely no evidence to support foul play.
I did ask Sheriff Eric Craddock about exclusive home security video we obtained from the neighborhood the night Sebastian disappeared. You can see two suspicious light sources circled here in an area behind the teen's home.
No evidentiary value?
It is of no evidentiary value.
Can you tell me what those lights are?
No,
Why?
because the investigation remains ongoing.
Of course. Because there's no evidence of foul play doesn't mean there wasn't foul play. I'm not wishing that upon Sebastian. Okay? But they have confirmed it was only Katie at home. I know some people don't believe that. They have confirmed that. They have their ways. I know there was a lot of rumors saying it's a criminal investigation now. It's not. This is the most recent update. Just because they don't have evidence doesn't mean that there isn't any evidence. Hence why they keep saying no one has been cleared. No one's been cleared. He's missing. No scent, no trace. Poof. There's got to be something. It's foul as fuck to me.
And so it could play a role down the road depending on developments?
We don't know what we don't know. So yes, it could play a role.
The sheriff concedes there are parts of the investigation that cannot be shared with the public. To date, authorities have investigated hundreds of tips, but they have produced no confirmed sightings and no solid leads. As a result, social media has taken hold of the case with wild speculation from less than credible sources.
The rumor mill on social media has done nothing to advance this case.
But even now, nearly a year later, no one is giving up on Sebastian.
Does anyone think that the rumor mill has actually hindered the case a tad bit? Just your opinion. Just your opinion. Sonia said just like summer. Without a trace again. Big difference between a 5-year-old and a 15-year-old, because I keep thinking, I'm not trying to compare cases, but like in the case of Gannon, when it got to trial, Gannon was much younger than Sebastian, and that he fought back. He fought for his life. Kimberly Brooks, I saw a post saying grand jury is on January 6th and 7th. Is that true? Yeah, they have a lot of grand juries in Tennessee, but who it's for, I don't know. I used to get my hopes up about grand juries in Rogersville, Tennessee, thinking it was for summer. Blah. Every time. Not for summer. I don't know.
The case remains open and authorities continue to track down leads. Everyone hopes for a break that leads to Sebastian, a break that perhaps leads him to safely someday return to his family.
He needs to call 911. And if somebody has him, you need to give him back. He's my son. And he doesn't belong to nobody, but damn it, he's mine. And he's mine.
Nick Barris, News Channel 5.
He said he's my son. My son. He doesn't belong to anybody but me. Well, that brings me to this. This was shared by Peter Hyatt, who I really like. Oh, looks like Pam's trying to comment on something. He said this December 29th. Over many years, in-person interviews for child abuse allegations. When boyfriend or stepfather introduces the topic of discipline, choosing his own words, the child was likely physically abused. Discipline introduced by, I'm just going to say, mom's side piece, okay? Mom's side piece doesn't need to be laying hands on the child, all right? Discipline introduced by Katie's side piece, not the interviewer, inevitably was a dominant part of this investigation. In missing children's cases, when the mother's boyfriend or the stepfather talks about discipline, the abuse is central as to why the child went missing. What do you think? What do you think? We know in the last few years there were multiple reports. Were they founded? I guess not, because there was no charges, and Sebastian was not removed from the home. He goes on to say the latter is far more intense due to the child's unknown current status and plight. Sebastian's case is an example of the guilty seeking to control a narrative that the stepfather knows will condemn him. The guilty knowledge rises to the surface if we are listening critically and not emotionally. And that's a big problem for me, okay? Because all of these cases, I get so much into my brain, my emotions. It feels like my blood pressure's in my ears. But he goes, you have to look critically, not emotionally. It is his own words, not mine, yours, nor the interviewer. When the child was missing, stepfather boasted of how great a disciplinarian he was. While the victim was missing, he did. He actually giggled about it. Stepfather showed no concern for what the child was going through. Stepfather would not pass a polygraph. Whew. That gave me chills, my friends. That gave me chills. Now, people break up. We get divorced. We get remarried. And obviously, when there's children have to have rules like it's bedtime. Nothing wrong with stepdad. Telling a child, hey, turn the lights off, time to go to bed. But the type of discipline, and I don't even like to use that word because this is not discipline, that we're talking about is totally different. Because when the government gets involved, it's not discipline. It's abuse. I do wonder how much of this Seth knew about, because his mother did. And I'm not playing the blame game. I'm not. Madam Secretary, Christina Laska, she said he bragged about throwing stuff away, getting rid of Brownie, in my opinion. He was wearing diapers, basically. Diapers. A neighbor heard Chris say, Katie, come get your retard. There was an incident at the Texas Roadhouse, the same one. The same one weeks before, where Chris got very upset and left the Texas Roadhouse. Supposedly it was over how Sebastian was eating. Get real. Of course, I tried to teach my sons table manners as well. I did. It got to a point when I would say, y'all want me to get a shovel and a wheelbarrow for you to eat? Would that make it easier? Is that what you want? But this has got everyone super heated. And for good reason. Because kids don't just disappear. Adults can. They can pack up and go to Maine and say, leave me alone. Better believe it. Take a second and hit the like for me, please. And I'm going to put the members link up because we have a big members live coming up that you do not want to miss, my friends. Well, without further ado, I'm going to bring up our very special guest. We've been talking quite a bit over the last few days. My friend Aggie introduced us. Love you, Aggie. And I'm going to bring her up. So I want a big, huge round of applause for Julie at JulieProufoundAutism. Woo-wee, Christina Laska. Let's just chat a bit about the picture on your thumbnail. Was that not bizarre reaction by CP? In my humble opinion, that was the first public interview. Yeah, very bizarre. Welcome, Julie, and thank you, Christina, for the super sticker. Rock on. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing good. How are you? Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly. How is the weather in your neck of the woods?
It's nice. It's cold, but nice, sunny. And we had snow on Christmas, so that was really nice. And it was nice to see Christina Laska, because she follows me, subscribes. I'm from TikTok. I've only been on YouTube a little while, but she's a subscriber, and I can't see the chat, but it's nice to know that some people who already know me are here, which is great.
Yep. Did you put it on your page that you were going to be here?
I announced it twice.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so it's on 2 different videos.
Perfect.
And everybody said, you'll love her. She's so funny.
Well,
Talking about you, Brooks.
yep. Well, I do say things that are a little off the cuff, if you know what I mean. All right. So let's talk. Let's talk. Now, if there's anything I bring up from our conversations you don't want to talk about, just say, no comment. Or if you really want to get people going, go, I plead the fifth, because everybody's freaking out about that. Let's talk about Katie not wanting to talk to the media, any social interaction, anything like that. Do you find that? I mean, as a mother, you have twin sons. I'm going to let you tell that story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have twins, 20-year-olds, autistic. One is, they're boys, level 1 with comorbidities, right? Which means some other conditions in addition to autism. And which is, by the way, by the time children who have autism or other things reach, teenagehood or adulthood, in the case of my boys, often more diagnoses are added to the main diagnoses.
Okay.
So it's not uncommon by this age that, like, my son, who's level 1, very much like Sebastian. He reminds me so much of Sebastian. It's really like it. All the autism parents in the community that I talk to are really invested in this case, emotionally invested. I know it says put aside emotion and talk about logic. Well, for us, it's all emotion, because we immediately put ourselves in the shoes of the families and imagine that Sebastian is our child. So it's very easy for me. He even has a similar stim, a subtle stim, as my level 1 son. And then I have a profoundly autistic son. They're twins. They're genetically identical, but one is profoundly autistic, meaning he is intellectually disabled and he cannot keep himself safe. He needs help with activities of daily living, meaning everything from cooking or, picking out clothes to crossing the street.
Mm-hmm.
He cannot do any of that alone, and he will need 24/7 care for the rest of his life. So at 50,
Now, how
years
will
old, he needs someone to help him cross the street.
And how will you prepare for that? I mean, where will he go?
Yeah, so that's a long conversation, but he ultimately,
that's your person. I shouldn't have brought it up.
ultimately every parent of a profoundly autistic child, meaning a child who will not be able to take care of themselves, they just have severe intellectual disabilities, has to face the fact in every case, except for in tragedies, that our children will outlive us. And
Of course.
we have to prepare for that. And that is a horrible thing to have to think about and prepare for.
Well, and that's what we want. We want our children to outlive us.
Right.
And
But imagine for a second that your child is, imagine a 3-year-old, a forever 3-year-old, if they were like stuck in time, outliving you for 20 years, 30 years. That's what it feels like. So it's, somebody who cannot, he's minimally verbal or our kids are minimally verbal or nonverbal. But in the case of my level 1 son, who's like Sebastian, fully verbal. In fact, I say to him, you should be a lawyer, because he can argue things so well. Like, his verbal capabilities are amazing, but he has gaps. And I think
explain what that is when you say gaps.
So,
and I'm not trying to hone in on your family or your children.
Not at all. I like to I use my
Sebastian.
I like to tell people that, first of all, I am not a doctor. I am not a licensed specialist. I was a special education teacher, but I'm a parent of 20-year-old autistic twins, one who's level 1 and one who's profoundly autistic. So I like to bring awareness based on my experience, right? Sort of unlike Mr. Proudfoot, who likes to lecture people about what it means to, how you should parent your children. I like to say, this is what I do. This is what's worked for me. And, maybe you can benefit from the mistakes that I have made along the way. And I've had to learn the hard way, and I can save you possibly from making the same mistakes. So I try to have awareness that way.
There's no perfect parent. It's all trial and error. Okay. They don't come with a guidebook.
Especially with autism, because you really don't know. I mean, you everything has to be learned. When I talk about gaps with my level 1 son, which, let me make this point first. We have a saying, if you meet one child with autism, right, you've met one, or adult with autism, you've met one child with autism, meaning everybody is different. Okay. Everybody is unique. What gaps my son has may not be the exact same gaps as Sebastian has. However, they will have gaps. They will have difficulties. And I've heard reported by the parents, by Seth, talking about his behaviors, even by Chris and Katie talking about his behaviors, that shows that he had difficulties. So, for example, difficulty with social situations, being able to read people's emotions or signals, social signals, knowing what's appropriate to say or inappropriate to say. Difficulties with executive functioning skills in general, which could be anything surrounding many things, but specifically with my son, it was around organization, time management, and hygiene issues, right? That was with my level 1 son. And we've heard a couple stories about Sebastian having difficulty keeping his room clean, right? Even not just where there was the incident with Chris having him throw out his things, or throwing out Sebastian's things when he didn't clean his room to whatever standard he determined it should be. But also you heard it with Seth in that story where he went swimming. He wanted to go swimming. It was going to take him swimming, an activity Sebastian liked. He told him to clean his room. Sebastian was playing a video game, and hours went by, and each time he was not, cleaning at all. And finally, Seth, after many hours, picked up his towel and starts walking out the door, to teach him a lesson, like, you did not clean your room. So therefore, you do not get this reward. Okay.
But isn't that common parenting? We don't reward when you don't do something, but belts and taking their furniture out of their room and making them sleep in a garage are different. Now, I've got to go through some things in the chat. Nicey Marie said, in her opinion, the CPS reports play a big part of Sebastian disappearing. My opinion. Something in the reports is the reason. Now, we spoke about this yesterday with Summer Wells, and we spoke about it many times. Isn't it pretty coincidental that when the hammer is coming down from Child Protective Services, and we all know it takes a long time, that some children go poof, they vanish? Because we know in the case of Summer Wells, CPS was there on June 14th. That's the day that Dawn fired Dudley, was acting really strange. She goes missing on the 15th. And then he tells a family member, I believe, that they were planning to come back on the 16th.
I have the lawyers for the Proudfoots are going to have a difficult job, because there's a lot to explain away. There's really a lot to explain away. There's a lot of things happening from reports from different people. So you'll have potentially a CPS worker, able to, or at least their reports, able to testify or to be used in the case. You'll have teachers who observe things themselves that possibly cause them to call CPS, and teachers who Sebastian himself reported to, right? And him talking, I agree. What do you say? Nisi Marie? Or did you say? Or Nice Marie? Says, yeah, it played a big role because Chris Proudfoot just said in his interview on Elevated Truth, well, when he called into Elevated Truth, he said, we don't talk about things that go on behind closed doors. You know, that's not anybody's business. Do you think that applied with Sebastian? Do you think he heard that as well? That we don't talk about things that go on in our house? And Sebastian himself talking to teachers about what was going on in the household from his perspective would not be following the rules or the guidelines that Chris has set out about not talking about things that go on. And then with the pressure of having a court case, a custody case about faith, there's a lot of explaining to do. Then possibly neighbors coming forward. And when you have multiple witnesses who don't have a relationship with each other, right? Especially when you have like teachers plus a CPS worker plus a neighbor, right? None of these individuals know each other. They're coordinated.
I say that quite often. I'm like, these people are in different circles. They don't know each other. Miss Kay, and this is something that I've been really focusing on since
I'm glad you brought it up.
He is highly functioning and cognitively advanced. He plays chess at a high standard. And just imagine how it felt for Fat Boy with the mullet when Sebastian's taller than him and can beat him at chess. And as far as not keeping the room clean and the hygiene for Sebastian, I'm not talking about your children. I raised 3 boys. You know how many times I said, get in the shower. You're not going to sit on the couch after football practice. Get your dirty ass in the shower. And, oh my gosh, this room, do I need to call waste management for your room? These are not uncommon things for teenagers.
No, it's not. You just made me laugh because I remembered driving my son and his friends home from practice, and I would literally have to roll down the window and stick my head out. It smelled so bad in my car. But I did want to address the thing about he's high functioning.
Okay, hold that thought because I got to reply to this. Y'all, some of you, we just had an idiot of the week yesterday. I really don't want to unthrone that person because they effed up big time. All right, Kenna says it's all in my opinion. Well, then keep it that way. You all need to stop making things up. Sebastian wasn't sleeping in the garage. There's many reports that he was sent to the garage because Chris didn't like the piss smell. She said, also, there are not 5, I don't know what CO is. I'm going to assume reports. And people do call in fake CPS reports, but I would not think self-reporting to a teacher from Sebastian to someone at the school would be fake. Those are his words.
We don't know who all the reports came from, other than what Chris said. We do know at least one time Sebastian self-reported because he tells the story about that he got swatted with a belt, and he went to the school and told teachers, Chris says, a story, and because they're mandated to call, they called, and therefore CPS came to the house, and that's what it was. So this is something he's himself, that's how we found out about, at least me, I found out about the very first CPS case through Chris Proudfoot, through his own words.
His own words.
Right. So I have to believe him when he says that.
We can't, nobody would admit that. That's crazy.
Right. And he also said, no, I have one in, I think it was on the Nancy Grace show. I have one
in Mexico,
and I have one in Tennessee. Okay. So now he's talking about not with the same child, but 2 cases. Again, two different households. They weren't together, Sebastian and Nina's daughter, or you know what I mean? I'm not sure what the CPS case was for Nina's children, but other than Faith, who was very young, who wouldn't have been able to identify what was child abuse or get in touch with CPS. It's just like like I said, the lawyers are going to have a hard time because there is just so much to explain. Once you get, it's like, well, let me, defend myself against this and that and this person and that person and all these people who don't know each other coming together, not coming together, but in a courtroom would be brought together to present evidence. People start saying, well, and then you have Chris Proudfoot's own words talking about how he disciplined Sebastian.
Now, internet rumors are not going to be a problem if it ever gets to that point. And we are not here to be knocking on Katie, knocking on Chris, knocking on Seth, but I'm going to be uber honest right here when I say I'm not overly impressed with this family at all. And that's their own words, not stuff I've read on Twitter, now known as X, not stuff I've read in Facebook groups. I'm not overly impressed.
No. I mean, just everything, their reaction to this, the not searching, the leaving the house. But if you don't mind, I just want to address this term high functioning autism.
Okay.
Because this is an outdated term. This is a term, and I'm here to educate, not to shame anybody or to say, oh, you're using the wrong language. Okay. Because people don't know unless you have an autistic child who you're having regular IEP meetings with. You might not be hearing this new terminology. High functioning autism was something that was from the 1980s, right? And basically until the, let's say early 2000s was a common term that was used, but it was based on IQ score. So what high functioning means that Sebastian fell in the normal range of IQ, meaning he does not have intellectual disabilities. It does not mean he is Sheldon from the Big Bang Theory and, is a genius or anything like that. What we use now, we don't say high functioning, because the reason that they don't use high functioning is for the very reason that it gives the wrong impression that a child with level 1 autism might not have any issues. They're high functioning. It sounds like they're fine, like maybe it's okay to be autistic level 1, well, it's not that bad. Well, no, they have a lot of struggles. So they now refer to things as levels, level 1, level 2, level 3. And
we don't know what level Sebastian is.
No, but he's definitely not level 3 because level 3 is intellectually disabled. So he's not level 3, right? So there are things. So he's definitely not intellectually disabled. He's definitely not nonverbal. He definitely, you know what I mean? But about levels, actually, children can go through, go from 1 to 2 or 2 to 1 at different periods of their life if they're having a regression. Then we also use, in addition to the levels, the general levels, we talk about support needs, right? So you have high support needs and you have low or lower support needs. So Spencer, my profoundly autistic child, is a high support needs child. He needs a lot of support. He needs support in everything he does during the day. Okay. He'll never be able to drive. He'll never be able to cross the street by himself. He can't make change of $1. He wouldn't, he needs help with, he can't cook a meal on the stove. He has very high support needs. Then you talk about children who have lower support needs, right? They can cook a meal on the stove. They can cross the street. They can, keep themselves safe to a degree. Does it mean there's not issues? Does it mean there's not, like, as I say, gaps, right?
Right.
Becoming dysregulated, emotionally dysregulated, having sensory overload. all these things. So low support needs, I always emphasize, low support needs does not mean no support needs. He was in a special education class for a reason. You don't get put in a special education class based on the request of a parent. I'd like my child to be in a special education class. There's a set of evaluations. There's an IEP, as you mentioned, an individualized education plan, which is a legal document. So they set up a program for each child based on their particular needs and what they need to work on. So yes, a child can have extraordinary, like I say, my Spencer even, who's profoundly autistic, also has hyperlexia too, which means he had an early ability to read. He can decode the letters to make words, right? And sound them out. He does not understand the meaning of the words that he's saying.
Now, let me ask you this. How does this relate to Sebastian vanishing without a trace?
Well, it relates to his ability to keep himself safe, ultimately, to have the survival skills necessary if he were alone. It also, the way that the fact that there was not a lot of understanding about Sebastian's autism by members of the police or those searching for him led them to conduct the search in the beginning in a way, maybe the idea that a child is an autistic child wanders or elopes, right? And is attracted to water. Spencer, my profoundly autistic son, he doesn't really elope or anything like that. But there were times when he was younger, he did. But being attracted to water, definitely. Spencer is definitely. He doesn't know. He would jump into the deep end of a cold lake in the wintertime. He cannot keep himself safe because he's attracted to water and he doesn't understand the consequences of it. Sebastian, he knows if I jump into the deep end of a cold lake that I can't swim. I mean, he probably could swim, but the lake is freezing and I feel cold. It's not good. I won't like it. So he has an understanding. So the fact that some of the searchers went to the water immediately because they said autistic kids are attracted to water. Yes, autistic kids with intellectual disabilities like my Spencer would be attracted to water. Sebastian, that's not what we're talking about here. So he would be more likely to be in a wooded area or even trying to find shelter for himself, things like that. So I think now it's been 10 months. Right. No. He was
without a trace, without a sound, without a scent, and that implies the problem.
Well, the thing is, and there was, people could disagree with this, but there was some duper's delight going on with the way Chris Proudfoot talked about his disappearance, saying this case will be studied, right? Because there's no evidence, there's nothing. Well, I think it would be very hard for an autistic child to disappear in general and stay disappeared. Stay no evidence, with no evidence, no proof, no information, no sign, no hair from him for this long. I just think, and immediately, even in the immediate thing, I mean, not having a scent for the dogs to track. I mean, the dogs are dogs. They don't, they may make mistakes, but they don't lie. Dogs don't lie.
No, dogs aren't there to lie, and that's the reason they use so many different ones with different training. I need to answer this from Hershey, and we have to be careful about talking over each other. I have a bit of a lag on my side. It makes it confusing for people can't hear. Trust me, I do it all the time. Hershey said CPS reports have gone to 7 now. LOL, we don't factually know how many let the rumors fly. I know of 2, and that came from Chris Proudfoot. The other 5 that Seth says, then so be it. I don't know, because I don't know enough about it. Either you believe it or you don't. Kelly said dogs are dogs, LOL. No, because some are trained to sniff out cadavers. Some are trained to hunt down fugitives. Some are trained to, now I've never had a dog this smart, so, I couldn't say. Some are trained to find scents. So, no, it's not just some regular old mutt you found behind the dumpster eating a can of SpaghettiOs. Obviously, there are different dogs are trained. And what I do not like about this case in particular is when, and many others, not just Sebastian, when they say a child is missing. Okay, I'll just say missing. And they're like, and autistic. People instantly freak out. Okay, they freak out. And I get it, but it seems like it's become a trigger word, and they never really explain what the difficulty could be. I told you about the little boy in Oklahoma. He was a little over 2 years old, attracted to water. And yeah, they found him in the water. It was horrible. His mom was tending to another baby. He undid the latch on the screen door. And that's horrible. Well, let's do some reaction. I want to go through this by Michelle After Dark. My girl, Michelle After Dark. And you all tell me what you think, because she is really getting irritated with the craziness. And then we're going to get back to Sebastian and just Sebastian and his case. Hold on.
Appeal to Seth Rogers. Seth, you are the only person who can stop this absolute circus that has become a runaway train that is set to demolish your missing son's case.
Okay, right out the gate, she's putting the onus, her opinion, of course, on Seth, saying, you're the only one that can stop this. Quit muddying the water with Sebastian's case. I'm getting your reaction and opinion only. Julie, what do you think?
I'm not sure what she's referring to exactly. When was this put out?
Yesterday, maybe?
Yesterday? Okay, so there's been new announcements. If what she's referring to is, some things about that even I didn't understand that came out from At Night Agency that was like talking about, I wasn't sure if they were even talking about this case. You know what I mean? Like they were saying this state, that state, trafficking. I had no idea what they were talking about. So if that's what she's referring to, yeah, I have been confused at times with things. Now, I don't think Seth can control the rumors just the same way.
No,
he can't control the rumors. I mean, it's people are just going to say things, and I'm not sure how closely Seth and Tony are working like side by side, clearly, right? But does Seth have any influence over At Night Agency and Dog the Bounty Hunter and things like that? They're helping him, but I think they also do their own thing. That's my impression. So I'm not sure. I think she is incorrect when she said, Seth, only you can stop this. Okay. Seth can control, we can all control ourselves, basically. And we can control, he has Tony who's working with him and allowing Tony to speak for him. He can control that. Can he control every single person related to the case? Can he control all the people who are saying things in chats? No, as can't the Proudfoots cannot control all of it either. So I don't agree with that.
The best thing they can do is just not speak and just deal with law enforcement. In my opinion, because when Seth was on another channel, he said, this is my investigation, which it's not. It's not. Okay. So that obviously was a misstep. And he could tell his team to don't put anything else out because the rumors go nuts. People dissect. They go through this stuff and they're like, what? And I'm to the point, unless there's a document on the screen, I'm just like, yeah, maybe not,
I also don't think Chris Proudfoot is doing himself any favors by calling into shows, continuing to talk, because I think he may want to listen to Katie's lawyer. I mean,
if she has one, who's this lawyer? Again, we're not going to say it on here. You call an attorney's office, they're going to be like, oh, I'm glad you called. Yeah, this is the advice I gave her. No, they're going to say no comment.
No comment. Yeah. No. That was not written by an attorney. And the other thing that's sort of, I don't understand this, and I'm not a lawyer. I don't understand this part. But people, can a lawyer say, we are not talking to media, we are not talking to this, we're not having any comment for anybody? And they could also say, on behalf of Katie Proudfoot, she will not be making any statements, basically telling people, leave her alone. She's not making any statements. But taking the fifth, does that, I thought that only happened in a courtroom.
Yeah. Or when, you mean you're getting, we've seen it on many
I don't think she's the fifth.
Many interrogations when they say, no, I want a lawyer.
Which is not the same thing as taking the fifth.
But now we have, we have the case. Hang on.
You're invoking your right to silence, right?
Yeah, you don't have to talk to them. They're going to figure it out one way or another. Then we have the case of Kyron Harmon when they brought Dee Dee Spicer in to the grand jury. 140 questions. She pled the fifth on everything. She refused to answer. Hey, it's her right.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. Yeah.
You just went silent on me just for a quick second. What was the last thing you said?
I said it in there.
Kylie. You were talking about Kylie?
Kyron Harmon.
Oh, I'm sorry. I couldn't hear.
When his stepmom's girlfriend was in front of the grand jury, she invoked the fifth. So this is way out of context. Toodles said, the well's like this. Nobody's talking about summer. I just did a show about summer yesterday. Go check it out. Toodles. I've missed you. So I see where Michelle's coming from, where she's just like, listen, if you want the nonsense to stop, then you have to stop it. You tell your people, don't leak any more information. Speak to the media, Nick Barris, News Nation, what have you. Stick to the facts, and then all this other stuff needs to go away. Lisa has a question. Do we know KP really said that? Who did she say this to? That's a huge question mark for me too, because we have to be fair. We're not going to be on this channel going, I know she killed him, because there's zero evidence.
We know KP really said what? That I'm going to take the fifth?
Yeah.
No, we don't know. And she wouldn't, no lawyer would announce that ahead of time. She's going to be in court. That is a decision they make in a courtroom when you go on the stand. Now she's invoking her rights to remain silent, meaning not be interviewed by police. She has that right, which is different than the fifth. The fifth is something that you do the courtroom. I'm not trying to talk as a lawyer here, but this is my understanding, just generally speaking, because when you watch trials, sometimes you don't know if someone's going to take the fifth, if you watch court TV, until literally the day they're about to go on the stand. They don't let the defense.
Yeah, so this she pled the fifth. There's a big difference between getting on the stand and saying, I'm going to invoke my Fifth Amendment rights, and then sending a text out or answering the phone saying, I'm not talking to your ass. No, I have nothing to say to you, because this is going to hurt some people's feelings. And that's not what I'm here to do. Dog the Bounty Hunter is not law enforcement. Okay? This Nick guy is not law enforcement. She should not be talking to them at all. And then this attorney, they're really good about saying We have nothing from this office, So it's way out of
if I were an attorney and they were my clients, I would have told them not to say a word from the start, as I would with anybody. That's what attorneys do. They tell you don't talk, because the problem, I think, with Chris especially is he thinks that he's going to be able to outsmart everybody. He tells people.
It does appear that way to me too. It does appear that way to me too.
Well, he likes to tell you how you should do things. He's going to explain the story to you. He's going to make things crystal clear. He's going to let me help you out with it. Listen to his. If you said you showed Peter Hyatt, listen to his words. Let me make this, because let me do this. This is telling parents. Parents shouldn't this. Parents shouldn't that. When did he become an authority? So he's
not an authority. He's not an authority. And there's not an attorney on this planet that is going to advise their client. Sure, talk to the police. That's a great idea. Go ahead, paint yourself into a corner. Go on the news and let them clip it up and make you look like an asshole. They're not going to do that. That's what attorneys do. When I get a document, when someone files something, we'll deal with it. And at this point right now, Danny Dane, you're right. She said, yes, I know an attorney that will fire your ass if you talk. It makes their job too hard. But it's being interpreted wrong, in my opinion. And it just seems like outside looking in, this case is obviously, it's a mess. Okay. I can't imagine what law enforcement's going through. I just can't imagine. They keep saying there's no evidence of foul play. That doesn't mean there's no evidence. It means they haven't found it yet. I don't want there to be foul play for this boy. I don't. That's a horrible thing to wish upon someone.
May I ask you a question, Brooks? Do you think, let's forget the allegations of child abuse or what we suspect is child abuse, or my opinion as an autism parent think about the way Sebastian was treated in the home of the Proudfoots. Okay. Do you think the lack of evidence is evidence? Do you think the lack of searching the suspicious behaviors is evidence? To say there's no evidence. Even this past week, right? Chris said, there's no evidence. There's nothing. Well, there's some things, there's like some videos and some people coming out and saying that, there's some pieces of information, and also your behaviors, right? And the words that you have said since Sebastian went missing would be used perhaps as evidence, right? If he said, I took a lie detector test, and then he said, I didn't take a lie detector test. Just, being shown to be having talking about hitting Sebastian with the belt. Himself saying it, is that evidence? What do they consider evidence? And the fact that a child who is 15, middle of the night, right, that could leave no trace of himself is evidence that there was foul play, in my opinion. It really upset me when they said there is no evidence of foul play. An autistic child who does have deficits in many areas. Like I said, we don't use the term high functioning because it gives people the wrong impression. That they don't have any issues. They do have. They do become overwhelmed. They do have emotional dysregulation. You saw him in the Texas Roadhouse going like this, right? You saw the shoulder going up. It was a little slight, but it's a stim. That's a stim. That's a way he helps self-regulate. There's nothing wrong with it. It reminded me of my son because he does it with two shoulders, right? I noticed it because he does it with two shoulders. Sebastian was doing it with one shoulder. And he also did a little switching here and here. These are stims. These kinds of body adjustments are called stims. And it's what autistic people do to help regulate themselves. There's nothing wrong with it. Now, when you have a profoundly autistic child like Spencer, he does this. He flaps his hands right up by his head, okay? Like that. Very obvious. The stims are very obvious. With a level 1, perhaps Sebastian, like my son, would have some stims, but they wouldn't be as pronounced, but they're still there. Kids who are like Sebastian, there's a reason they make fidgets toys, okay? For kids who need something, having that texture, that something tactile in their hands, right? To help them with that. So they wouldn't make these things if there was no market for it. They make it because, like my son, he used to always have to have a little, either a coin in his hand or a tiny little piece of ripped up paper in his hand, something, tactile that he always would keep in his hand, right? And they might keep it in their pocket, take it out once in a while, put it back in. But it's something soothing to them. So it helps them regulate. Think of it as self-soothing, right? When you're becoming, a little overwhelmed, you're becoming, uncomfortable, you're having anxiety, right? Using any physical object. My opinion, people should focus on what's wrong with autistic rather than what is strong about them and worthwhile humans like the rest of us. Yes. Kat,
100% Kat. Can we have a big round of applause for Kat, everybody? That's what I have been saying. I hate the labels. I hate them. I hate them. I hate them. Because as you have explained, there's different levels and everything like that. You could be the worst level, but something attributed, I believe, in that home
yes,
to him being missing. And I can tell you right now, we have heard from law enforcement. I just did the update that came out yesterday. Katie was the only one home. So where could he be? Chris was outside of Memphis. Seth was at work. Who would have some kind of vendetta against them to go grab Sebastian? How can there not be a scent? I have heard some of the craziest stories that he's been buried and dug up many times. You know what it would take to carry out 120 pounds of dead weight, bury it, and continually dig it up and put it different places? They have drones that detect newly moved dirt. Let me put it that way. I really think it just comes down to Katie. What was going on in that home?
Well, may I say something about what was going on in the home about discipline of Sebastian and him being autistic? I'm talking as a parent. I'm talking as a parent who's received training on how to deal with difficult behaviors, right? The way Chris handled things from his words would be the opposite of how it would help an autistic child, okay? Having harsh punishments, not explaining yourself, yelling at the child for mistakes, as opposed to having patience. You need a lot of patience as an autism parent, okay? I don't think he had a lot of patience. I think he took it as an offense to him when Sebastian was behaving like an autistic child does, meaning he's doing things that he shares with many autistic children. It's symptomatic of autistic children, right? To be disorganized in many cases, not all, right, at level 1. So he is not going to learn a lesson about this by throwing away his things. Is that going to make him not autistic and not disorganized? any longer, because now it's basically saying you can punish the autism out of a child. Would you punish, and I know this is an extreme example, would you punish a blind child for knocking over a glass of water? You know, you didn't see that. You knocked over a glass of water. I'm going to punish you for that. It's because of their disability that they didn't see it, right? So just because they make this mistake over and over, it's due to their disability. You could punish that blind child as much as you want. They still might knock things over when they don't see it. And Sebastian,
and I knock things over. My cat knocks things over. My kids knock things over. And I agree with you. Chris has a short fuse. We've seen him. We've seen his reactions. We know about his past marriages. We know what happened. I believe her name was Rachel, when he was not reported by her, not that nice to her children. Petty Kitty said the lack of evidence is considered evidence. I agree. Right. Kelly, she said, Sonia, who are you really? She's one of my very, very good friends, Kelly. Everybody can get along in here. We had a child that went missing, I believe it was Sunday, in Catoosa, Oklahoma. Autistic, Catoosa Police Department, all hands on deck. He's back home with his mama. This is what's not making sense to me with all of the, I got to find a nice way to put it, difficulties he may have that he can't be found.
Yes.
I don't like that. I don't like that Katie said you're not in trouble. That tells me something happened that night and he was in trouble. Now, Kat had a really good point. Again, this is speculation. It's an opinion. Wake him up in the middle of the night, tell him somebody's waiting on him. I don't know. Okay, Hershey said with his short time of diagnosis, it's a learning curve on learning the triggers and how to handle them. And that, my friend, Hershey, that is what I've been saying. I spoke to Julie about this yesterday. It seems to me that none of the adults in his life were totally understanding how to deal with what was going on. All right, let's get back to Michelle. And again, this is going to be reaction only.
Okay.
Seth, only you can ditch these people who are getting more and more deranged as the days tick by. Seth, how can you believe this nonsense? Seth, please stop. Only you can stop this. Only you can ditch them. Only you can kick them to the curb and say, look, I want to find my son. I want to find my son who has been missing for 10 months. But I don't want this farce anymore. Only you can do this, Seth. Please, please do this for Sebastian. Intelligence, approximately the last 12 hours. We've had post after post after post getting more and more bizarre. It's baffling why Seth Rogers is standing by these people.
Off topic, somebody told me I should do a video with my cat on there. Well, that wouldn't be very entertaining. Okay. He, like right now, he's asleep in the floor. He was up here causing havoc. That's the reason I had to mute myself. If I went in the backyard with him right now and I turned on the camera, he'd be jumping over fences, fighting with dogs. DC Primetime said, what does Julie think of the fact he had no shoes? I'll answer for myself first and then hand it to Julie. I don't believe it. I don't believe it at all. I don't believe anybody would just walk out the door at whatever time in the morning, sometime between midnight and 6 a.m. and not have their shoes. Julie, I'll let you answer it.
I've changed my first, I'll tell you what my very first reaction was when I heard he had no shoes. Before I saw the videos and looked into the case, more, my initial thought was they woke him up and said, or she woke him up and said, you know, there's a fire or something, there's some emergency. You know, if there was like a fire, the house is on fire, we have to run out of the house. Let's go. Come on, I'm getting you and pulling you out. I would say, okay, that might be a way a child who's autistic, who has, you know, sensory issues and things like that, would go out of the house if it was a real emergency. Outside of that, I don't see how they would leave without their shoes. Outside of that, I just have trouble believing it.
No, I don't believe that at all.
If they were walking on their own.
And the only reason I'm saying that is because, well, I have to go with what Seth said, that he had some sort of sensory thing to where he would not walk anywhere without shoes. Christine Alaska. CPS reports were sealed documents. They are not accessible to the public. If someone says XYZ number of reports, it's hearsay in my opinion. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Because people are coming unglued. All I know is Chris said there's 2. Not taking up for Chris, because you shouldn't even have 1. You shouldn't even have a report of 1. Nothing.
I will say, Seth has said he got a lawyer because he was not made aware of these reports by CPS. And it was with that lawyer that he was able to get access to the CPS reports. And then Tony Mathis went on Mr. and Mrs. E's Crime Cast and said there were 5 reports. So this is after Seth had engaged a lawyer to get access to the reports. There were 5 reports, 4 with Chris's name on it, 1 with Katie's name on it. And according to Tony Mathis, I'm just saying what he said, okay? And he would,
absolutely,
the public would not know. But the parent, through a lawyer, got access to it, and he said 4 had for acts that CPS would investigate, which are acts of different types of abuse, right? 4 had Chris's name on it, the stepfather's name on it, and 1 had one had the mother's name on it. And that would be, as Tony explained it, and I'm paraphrasing here, for putting the child in that situation, which I interpret as endangerment.
Okay, so there would have to be, and we've looked, there would have to be a court filing to unseal them. They wouldn't be public, and present them to said attorney and to Seth. And I think that's a problem a lot of people are having. You know, on this channel, we really want the truth because the rest of it just boggles our minds. Sandra Neal, my girl, she said, I don't believe a word anyone but Ellie says. Yeah. Linda Smith said, like Shanann Watts, shoes were by the door because she was carried out. But they found her quickly. Well, because Chris Watts told him where she was. I want to know how Katie, not defending Katie, because I think she failed in many areas. How? Christy said, I don't believe law enforcement. You don't have to, and they can lie to you. They can have evidence as big as a Tokyo telephone book. And they could say, nothing. We don't have anything because it's not for public consumption. They can't respect the case and keep the integrity of the case if they're fucking around on YouTube or they're in Facebook groups going, well, guess what we heard? We got a tip the other day. They don't do that. And I've had several people complain to me, not just in this case, but many others where they're like, well, they didn't do anything with the information I called them with. Well,
I have to say, I think the public's frustration has been, first of all, they barely said anything. They've had very few press conferences in these 10 months. And that, I mean, noticeably like less than other cases, right? Where you might have more regular interactions. Second of all, I have followers of mine on TikTok who live in Hendersonville, who live in Sumner County, who have autistic children. And this is what they have said to me. What upsets them in the beginning, especially, is they got no reassurance from law enforcement that if it was an abduction, that their child is safe. I mean, should I be worried? Should I be more extra cautious? Like, they have to give some communication to the public to reassure them, you know, we think the public is still at risk and lock your doors and blah, blah, blah. Or the public is not at risk. We think this is, you know, this was a family internal thing, whatever they could say to make the public aware. Are they still at risk or not? Because I have followers, several of them, who live in Hendersonville, who were very upset with the idea that he didn't tell them if there was a danger for their children. And two, you know, listen, it's not part of his job to show compassion. It's not probably written in his job description, Sheriff Craddock, but he had an attitude towards this from the start that, as an autism parent, I found to be completely void of, like, he was indifferent. He was totally indifferent. It seemed like he was indifferent. He didn't show any kind of compassion, caring, anything. Not that he, you know, it's not in his job description to do that, but it would be nice to hear some words of consolation, or that I'm as concerned as you are about this, about Sebastian Rogers, who is autistic and does have deficits. Okay, he is, and it does factor into things. And let me give you one example, quick example of how it factors in, right? If, let's say, this is a speculation, possibility, things people have talked about. If, let's say, Katie had used medication, as Seth has accused her of, right, of drugging Sebastian. Seth,
yeah, that was quite the accusation to make.
Right, but here's the thing. This is why autism plays a role.
Talk about the rumor mill. That was insane when I heard that.
But here's the thing. With autistic children, introducing medications, changes in medications, additional medications, would not get the same reaction out of an autistic child who takes medication daily versus a neurotypical child who does not take medication at all. All of a sudden, your neurotypical 15-year-old, your mother says, here, take these 3 pills. And your kid would go, huh? What's up with this, Mom? You know, why do I got to take it? They'd have a lot of questions. Whereas as your autistic child grows in height and weight and things like that, their medications are adjusted over time. Where they were taking 1 aspirin when they were little, they're now taking 2 aspirins, right? So they are used to taking medication. So the introduction, or if she would switch the medications, the doctor's giving you a new prescription now, would not raise any alarms, probably, with an autistic child who does take medication every day and who has had changes in their medication over the years. So it would be not quite easy, but he wouldn't fight the idea of taking a different medication as would a neurotypical child. Say, what's up with these pills you want me to swallow, right?
Well, and kids typically don't do that anyway. When mom says it's time to take your vitamin, or mom says we have to go to the doctor and this is your antibiotic, you have to eat a sandwich with it, it'll make you sick at your stomach. They don't really question it.
I don't know. Not my 15-year-old son, if all of a sudden, I have an older son, okay, who's neurotypical. My 15-year-old son, when he's not 15 anymore, but when he was 15, he would be like, why? What are they going to do? Why? You know, he would have a lot of questions. I'm just saying, also having access to the type of medication that would be needed is easier for parents who have prescriptions, access to prescriptions for their children. Doctors prescribe things like, they call them prophylactic medications to be used in certain situations. So our doctor for Spencer, and when he was younger for his brother, he would give us a prescription for some type of, I don't know if it was like a Valium or some type of calming, which was a controlled substance for when they had to go to the doctor or the dentist, and the doctor was going to have to give him a shot or something like that, because there would be a lot of anxiousness. They wouldn't hold still. They would be melting down, crying, dropping to the ground. And the doctor doesn't want to get stuck with a needle. So the doctor literally would prescribe us medications to give him a half hour before the appointments. So they might have access to certain medications that would be controlled substances, that could do damage if given in large quantities. So it's not unusual for autism parents to have access to those types of medications.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not going to accuse Katie of overdosing him on accident or purpose. The question is, we have a 16-year-old, he's now 16, not some little baby that you can, like Leilani Simon or some other cases, Harvey Montgomery, where you can stow him away and nobody would ever suspect anything. He's a big kid. I'm not saying he's fat, but that's a lot to get rid of. And I don't think it does Sebastian any good to, let's say he comes home tomorrow and he suddenly has access to the internet and he hears all this stuff. And the question is, say he's found today, that would be great. Where would he go? Between these three, where would he go? We have a grandmother that openly admitted that he had confided some things in her and she did nothing about it. We have a father, Miss Kay brought it up, Seth said himself there was a report made by the teacher at school about Seth hitting Sebastian in the head. We have a stepfather that seems to have major hatred for his stepson. Where would he go? Again, opinion only.
Though that thing in particular about, that was a claim that Katie made I was rewatching the Lore Lodge, who had the divorce DV petition against Seth, and that was a claim that Katie made about a teacher seeing this, him hitting Sebastian, and she had made other claims about mistreatment by Seth. But when it came time for the ruling on the DV, she did not produce those witnesses, the teacher or any of the other people, and therefore that DV petition, so that Seth couldn't see him, was not granted, and they were given, shared custody. So it was an accusation, but it was not substantiated in court.
Uh-huh.
I just happened to watch the Lore Lodge again, yesterday, because he had come out with something. So
I remember Seth saying it, and so that's why I assumed that something happened. But I get it now. I totally get it.
Yeah.
As they descend into madness, get help, please. Please get help. The people who are behind these posts, you need professional psychological help. Either that or just stop trolling, because it's obvious what you're doing. All right, we're going to start here. I'm not going to read all these word for word. I'm just not. Fraudulent identities discovered. At-Night has uncovered an individual actively utilizing multiple aliases and fraudulent identification cards.
Is it true that guy's not allowed to even leave Pennsylvania? Or is that another rumor?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Luke, I don't know. I have no idea, but I do know that there is a is it a probation officer that was called, right? So, if you are on probation, I don't know what the rules are in his case, but I would imagine, so this is just speculation, I would imagine that leaving the state is probably one thing you're not allowed to do unless you had permission. I mean, if there was extenuating circumstances, you might be able to get permission. Honestly, I've never been to jail. I don't have anybody in my family on probation or has ever been. So I don't feel like this is in my wheelhouse to answer the question about leaving a state.
I don't know his life. I'm not writing a book about him. Luke Baker said it, Kat, why are you being so rude? I'm not buying it. I've never seen you in this chat before. Why would you care? I love the woman to death. She's really cool. She's been around for years. But, you know, some days she'll put things in here that don't need to be in here. Okay?
As to obstruct the investigation. Really? Okay.
And then something came out, I think it was yesterday, that this attorney where all these people are suing this, that, or the other, says he doesn't represent them on any of this. And that SF investigates, he's going nuts. He said he's going to sue them all now. Well, I mean, I'm just speaking for myself. I wouldn't want to be tangled up in any of that, particularly when there's a child missing. But that is just my opinion.
Well, I can say that as a creator, okay, on TikTok and now on YouTube as well, I have had people come in my chat who there's a man who searches with very nice subscriber. He goes by Car Guy, right? And he has searched with silvers on the scene, you know, when they do the ground searches. And there was a guy who came into the chat who was like all over Car Guy, because he does searches and saying, I want to search with you and I wanted this and like, you know, like really like all over him. Like it was weird. And to the point where it was actually I saw the discomfort, you know, saying it was just so eager. Now, this just could have been somebody who really wants to search with them. I don't know. But you could see the uncomfortableness. So is it possible that somebody could try to insert themselves for whatever reason, with just on their own, wants to be, you know, all of a sudden they want to be, you know, part of some investigation or part of some action, and then try to insert themselves? Yes, I think that is very possible. Somebody could try to gain employment with an agency, you know, who has no business being there, or they are suspected of having a relationship with either parent, you know. So don't you feel that same way as a creator? Like sometimes you get people who are like, why are you so eager? Why are you so, you know, you want to be my friend, you want to this, you want to know that?
Quite often. And I've been burnt by it many times.
Right.
Ginger Girl said maybe this After Dark person could ask people to stop sending Seth threats of physical harm. That is between Seth and the police. If someone is threatening any physical harm, it has to be reported to the police. And I've yet to see it. But this guy that supposedly represents, well, he said he does. He represents Dog the Bounty Hunter, says he has nothing to do with this Rico or whatever.
Do you know the name of him? I don't know his name. I'm just curious.
I'd have to go look. But he says he's representing him on some case in Texas, and that's it.
Okay.
And then, you know, that's just life. You know, that's just this case. Exactly, V. Oakley. We are live and shit. You got it.
Yeah. Individual has attempted to gain employment with that night under false pretenses. I don't believe you even have staff. You're just a name. Has attempted to volunteer and pose as fake tipsters. Look, in every single case, you can go and ask anybody from law enforcement. There are people who send in false leads, send in tips that are not true, They're sending hoaxes. I mean, look, this very thing looks like a massive hoax to me. It really does. For what reason, I can only speculate. But in any case, you get false tips. You do. You get people who just for their own trolling purposes do that. So it's not unusual if you're getting that. Alias is identified to maintain the integrity of the investigation. You don't even have an investigation. Only first names are being released. Stephen, Mike, and John. So probably two of the most common Western names. Stephen, Mike, and John.
You have to admit it is pretty laughable. You just throw out some first names, Steve, Mike, John, and Heidi, and what do they have to do with anything?
I have to say, I don't like any, I prefer people to just speak plainly than, not do that. For example, okay, yes, I agree totally. Like, yeah, I was confused. I don't know who they mean. I'm not sure what it is. And so when people speak cryptically, like saying partial things, it weirds me out. And I don't know what the motivation is. Now, so yes, I'll say that about who makes these posts? Is this at night?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so at night is making posts that often come across as cryptic, right? So I don't like that. At the same time, we've had Chris, I'm sorry, put out videos of the Joker when Heath Ledger played him, right? When he wasn't speaking for a while, and then all of a sudden, and it was a very specific scene with specific, words about what this Joker's going to do. I feel like, I got to tell you the truth. I feel like there's some immaturity going on. I hate to say it, where you got somebody, he's saying, I'm the Joker, and this guy says, I'm the Riddler, literally. I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but it's like, why are they doing this stuff? It's so weird. That's all I have to say.
It is weird. It is weird.
One's the Joker, one's the Riddler. If he said, I'm the Joker, so he's like, I'm the Riddler.
Well, I mean, here we are 10 months in, today's New Year's Eve, and there is no solid fact of anything except what the parents have been saying. They certainly know how to, no pun intended, stick their proud foot in their mouth, all of them. And it's insane. It's one thing after another. Law enforcement isn't going to tell anybody anything unless they need them. And as far as the other rumors, if they thought for a minute, FBI, TBI, Secret Service, Sumner County, I know people don't ever like to hear about the small town cops. If they honestly thought there was a murderer on the loose, it's happened in 2 other cases that I can remember off the top of my head. They'll say, we have a public danger. You don't just let people like that run around. Lily Peters in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. They were telling people, walk your kids to school, make sure you pick them up. Don't let them play outside until they found out her cousin did it. We know there was an issue with the Idaho 4 case where they had no idea what was going on. And they're like, yeah, use caution when you're out. This isn't what they're doing here. So it's got to be something inside the home. But this no foul play, no evidence of foul play, they don't have to tell us.
No. They can reassure. You can say, you could do either or, in my opinion. You could say, lock your doors, this and this. We don't know what's going on, like Brian Koberger. But you also could say, you don't have to. It's okay. You can go about your daily business and just give some reassurance. I think they don't have to do it, but I think it's appropriate when they do it. And to the things about At Night Agency and Dog the Bounty Hunter, I am personally very happy that they came aboard this case because they brought, it seemed like people were starting to not talk about it, forget about it. And when they came in, they brought a lot of attention. And when you're trying to find a missing child, you don't want it to become a cold case. I am grateful for that. As an autism parent,
absolutely. There is nothing wrong with keeping the light shined on his case at all.
Right.
But there's so much BS. People can't discern, and I don't mean you guys in here because y'all are smart. They can't discern from what is factual really going on and what's in the evidence file that's with law enforcement. And yeah, we'd love to know all of it, would we not? We would love to know all of it.
There really is an injunction, at least, or I don't know if it's actually a RICO case, but we do know that some creators have been served legal papers for an injunction. And so there is some case happening. And I did see on a TV show, I'm trying to remember what. I only like to point to things that I actually did, but certainly the attorney Lesniak is Dog the Bounty Hunter's attorney, appears with him and does. I don't want to say he's referred to that lawsuit or not, because I can't remember exactly what he said, but certainly there is an attorney, a real well-known attorney associated with it, and people have been served actual, injunctions. So that part is real.
Yeah, I've heard about that. Yeah, I've heard about that. That's definitely.
As far as people getting threats, I can tell you from personal experience, I have received veiled threats many times.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes overt threats. I did have to go to my local law enforcement to show this. All they do is take a report. That's it. Just in case somebody should actually do something, right? But things have made me that have been said to me and made me very nervous. And then they say things to me like, "Oh, the minute I literally got on YouTube, they were saying I heard they're handing out, they said, I heard they're handing out protection orders, right? Like restraining orders, like hotcakes. Are you trying to get yourself one? I was like, well, that's kind of a veiled threat there. You're saying if I talk, I'm going to get a protection order. Like why would somebody say that to me in a chat? So it happens. It definitely happens that you can.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. I mean, protection orders, injunctions, stuff like that. And it kind of goes back to square one. Do you want to waste your time with people talking bad about you or find your son?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. His focus, Christopher Proudfoot's focus is demonstrating to the world that Sebastian is not his top priority. It's not.
No.
Talking about it.
No.
Also, his mom, Kathy Bowersox, I have read her posts on Facebook. And
yeah, we went through it last week. I couldn't believe it.
She says she refers to Sebastian constantly as this child, that child. And she doesn't say his name. And I do know that people who do, it's well known in psychology, people trying to distance themselves from something will not use their name, not use their first name when they're talking about them. So I did not like that, when I saw those posts and she kept referring to him as this child. The reason this child hasn't been found is this, like, one of the slogans going around is like, say his name. And it's not just a slogan for this missing child, but they say it for other people too. Say his name, right? Say his name, Sebastian. We want to keep the focus on Sebastian Rogers. Say his name so people don't forget. We're looking for now 16-year-old child who is autistic from Hendersonville, Tennessee, who went missing on February 26th. His name is Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, and he's been missing for 10 months. I mean, we have to keep the message out there. And it just rang like, it gave me a bad feeling.
That Chris's parents are pretty disconnected. And I know people are really trying to blame them for him going missing. You know, they ran off to Alaska. They went to Puerto Rico. I don't think they cared about him in the first place.
No.
They took other kids down to Disney World and they left him behind. They didn't take him.
Well, they're making it quite obvious to the world they don't care. Mm-hmm. I mean, going on vacation, referring to him as this child and not his first name. They're saying, if you think that we didn't care about Sebastian, here's the proof. You know, that's what it's saying. And I think that's horrible. And I feel bad for Sebastian if that's how he was treated or, you know, made to feel like an outcast.
Well, I think about what Terry Lynn said when she was on the show. She said, if he ran away, I hope he ran far, because there's too many issues in this family.
Yeah.
Hershey said Castro Fidel. Just kidding. Castro was Dog's attorney. Only for Texas, they had to remove his name from the injunction, as they should. His name should have never been on there.
Okay. Thank you for saying the name. I didn't know.
And then Heidi, and then others. Connection to the Profoots. This individual is employed by the Profoot family. Well, look, I've been accused of being employed by the Profoots. So this is just one more deranged thing that they're doing. The same people who refuse to lay into Chris and Katie are being paid by them. I've never taken a penny off anybody connected to this case. Not one penny. I've never spoken to Chris, never spoken to Katie. I've only ever spoken to Seth when he's come in my chats on my live streams and I've addressed comments that he's made. But I've never spoken to Chris and Katie. It's kind of an unwritten rule that I have. It's not set in stone. I'm not saying I never would. But I don't habitually speak to family members of missing people. I like to maintain my independence. I'm not saying I never would, but I'm just saying that that's not what I do. Anyway, these individuals, individual one admitted to being paid by the Profoot family. Was this when you administered truth serum to them or what? Is that what you did? And then individual two claimed to be working against the Profoot family, but in fact was connected to them. Oh, a double agent. Oh, we got spy networks now. This is crazy. And then at night has identified an investigator falsely claiming to be from California, but who is in reality a Floridian. Does it belong Betty? No, I don't know. I have no idea. With ties to shell corporations in California. Misled the public and investigative teams divert attention away from legitimate investigative leads. Violation of National Crime Information Center protocols. Well, there's no evidence that a crime has even been committed in this case. So I don't know what to tell you there. These developments emphasize the importance of transparency and vigilance as we continue to navigate the obstacles of this case. The people who are making obstacles in this case, in fact, the only people that I can see, at least at the moment, are you guys that are attempting to derail and distract from actual searches that are going on. It's just you who are doing this. Reward for information related to Reddit. Listen, if you believe in some of the nonsense that comes out on Reddit and you believe that you have to offer a reward for information from Reddit, I'm sorry, you're just a joke. You're just an absolute joke. Listen, Reddit's great. I like Reddit. I follow quite a few subreddits. My favourites at the moment, this is a sidebar thing. There's one, I can't remember what it's called now, but somebody posts a picture of the dog and you've got to guess what breed they are or what mix they are. That's really good. And then some of them come back with DNA results. And then there's one about monsteras. So cheese plants, a subreddit about monsteras, which is very interesting. I follow on Seen on Rightmove. Rightmove is like the equivalent of Zillow here in the UK. And
I need to answer this real quick. Hold on. Yeah, I don't know who's threatening people with IP addresses and stuff, but as far as Michelle laughing, she's laughing at the ridiculousness of some of these posts. She's not laughing at Sebastian being missing. I feel like I can safely say that. But it's a mess. It's totally a mess. And what's going to be, we want the end result, obviously, to be Sebastian safe and sound.
I'll say, I have no comment about Michelle, but I'll say this. It makes me glad how much this is being followed in the UK. I have a number of people follow, from the UK, in Australia, English-speaking countries, so that's good. I mean, that internationally, that this is being followed, this case, and the more attention, the better. That's all, I can say. But do you get a lot of people from the UK and Australia? I do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All the time. Yep. Look at Sam. Yep. I'm in England.
Oh, there you go.
Kat's my best friends.
Our friends over the pond. Thank you for
she's in England. She only speaks Chinese. I don't know. She must be using Google Translate.
Probably.
No, she doesn't speak Chinese.
Well, you have to.
I just this whole thing blows my mind, and the arguing. Are you team Seth or are you team Proud Feet? It doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. This boy is missing. He's missing. And there's one woman that was at the house with him. One. And we're supposed to believe that he walked out, locked the door without shoes, and has been surviving in the world all this time.
Yeah. I pray he's okay. I pray he's okay. But
if someone disagrees with the temperament, mannerisms, or anything with any of the three, meaning Chris, Katie, and Seth, if it doesn't fit the narrative, it's insane.
The fact that people are talking about them as suspects is totally reasonable. The likelihood that something happened to him by somebody outside of the family is very unlikely. And I'll tell you, autistic children are at a 40%, I believe 40% higher rate than their neurotypical peers of being physically abused in their homes. It can be difficult for parents to understand the behaviors of their autistic children when they become dysregulated, right? The frustration, the amount of patience that it takes when you're trying to teach your child something and you're showing them, and no matter how many times you remind them this, and they still don't do it, they just still forget, and you constantly have to remind yourself as a parent, this is not defiance, this is autism, right? There's a difference. They're not going against what I'm telling them to do. They are autistic. They have a disability, and this behavior is a manifestation of that disability. You can't tell an autistic child, stop becoming dysregulated. It's not going to work. They're going to be autistic.
Some people say it's not a disability, it's a gift. And I think in this case, they have concentrated way too much on labeling him as opposed to what went on in that house.
To anybody who says that, I'd like to ask you, for your next child or grandchild, would you like them to have that gift? Like Spencer, who I have to worry about for all the years when my husband and I are gone, and it's like leaving a 3 or 4 year olds out in the world without you. And we have to prepare. We have to, the amount of funds that it takes for the therapies, for the this, that, and to plan for your child's future. That even on level 1 autistic people, adults, there's a very high rate of unemployment. Their ability, the difficulties with social situations prevents them from having certain jobs, that involve interacting with the public. If you say it's a gift, would that gift be something you would want to give your next child or grandchild? I'm just saying, I love my autistic children. I am proud of them. They should be celebrated. I show my family on my social media because for too long, people have made us feel like our children shouldn't even be seen in public. They want to shame you for the noises he makes or whatever it is. We get a lot of, stares and things like that. And that's understandable, but it's just a noise. It's not going to hurt you. And
people need to mind their own damn business.
I just want, I'd show it because I want people to see that my child, who's profoundly autistic is just as lovable as any child. He truly is. And if you get to know him, right, you don't see the person in the store. All they saw was the hand flapping and the noise he made. But the people on social media who see him do the reading of the Charlie Brown Linus in his Christmas concert just a week and a half, or just two, not even a week ago, get to love him, and they know him, and they say, Spencer, he's adorable, he's sweet, he's kind, he's, he just has a smile that lights up the room. And I knew it. I said, if people could just get to know our children, they would see they're not what you think. They are sweet and kind and lovable, who can have very bad moments, very difficult moments, but they're not their personality. It's not all day long. They can have these very difficult to deal with moments. And this could be an issue for Chris and Katie. The fact that they got Harley Davidsons, right? I thought that was quite telling right after he went missing or went shopping for them, because it gave me a message like they want to be free to ride around on Harley Davidsons, because prior to Sebastian going missing, they weren't shopping for him. Why? Because they would have to take Sebastian with them. It wouldn't have been possible. So they were thinking, now we're going to live our best life. We're going to take vacations. We're going to go on motorcycles. It made me upset to see that.
Yeah, when in a missing child's case, when I see parents moving right along with their life,
right,
it instantly raises a red flag. DC Primetime, you've got great comments today. Chris and Seth were not there. Start with who was there. Exactly. Hershey said ODD was causing behavior problems, not autism.
Well, ODD is actually, let me say this. You're right. ODD is not usually diagnosed with autistic children. What's now diagnosed is called pervasive demand avoidance, which is related to anxiety. So a child who doesn't like their schedule changed, right? Or doesn't want to go a certain place or doesn't want to do a certain task, they will have a meltdown. They will have a fit. They will do things to get out of whatever demand is being made of them at that moment, because it's anxiety driven. ODD is oppositional defiance disorder. It is an aversion to authority. And ODD is not something you're born with, but look it up. And I'm telling you, the person who wrote that question, who wrote that comment, look up ODD, what causes ODD? And you'll see the top reason for developing ODD is often because, for children I'm talking about, you have parents who are using harsh discipline. That's where it comes from. when they said he has ODD, right? He wasn't born with ODD. ODD is a psychological condition that you develop. And it's developed because of a reaction of treatment that you are getting, that you are receiving, as opposed to PDA, which is more anxiety driven, right? ODD, children who are abused often have ODD.
And they run away, they fight back, they tell them off, and I don't know what was going on in that house, only what they have said, which seemed a little out there for me.
I mean, why are they sending him? Here's the thing. Why is the first intervention when the ODD was going on, right? And I don't doubt that he was having a reaction in that household. I'm not doubting this. I'm sure they have videotape of that. I wonder if Chris Proudfoot's bringing the proof is going to be videotape evidence of Sebastian acting out. Could it be that? I don't know. But I don't know why he has proof that he's not showing yet of whatever. It's weird to me. But why is the first method to send him to a disciplinary school as opposed to getting him psychological counseling on a regular, sustained basis? If you have faced as a child, you've had that kind of trauma, it's not 6 months of weekly therapy appointments. Okay. It's a lifetime, possibly, or certainly for years, where you can have recurrence. It's something you need. And autistic children also face a lot of bullying at school and things like that. He said that he didn't have friends. I mean, these are things that he should have been talking to a therapist about, right? And it might have prevented some of the behaviors that he had if he had been given some kind of outlet to talk about. But if you have a parent who says, we don't talk about things that go on behind closed doors, well, maybe they're not sending him to a therapist for that reason. I don't know. But I know that if you have a child who is demonstrating behavior of ODD, that child needs therapy. And they did not get him therapy for it.
I think they all should have been in therapy. And I think they all should have been in therapy. Every damn one of them. I can't speak about the grandparents who didn't seem to really give a shit and were never really around. But I think they all should have been in some kind of therapy. And, honestly, I don't think he would be missing if he did go to a behavioral home. I hate that word. I'll give it to you, Mama She. Thank you so much for the super sticker. She has 2 autistic babies. She's a great mama. And, well, you know what? They're not missing.
Mama She, I'm always happy to talk to fellow autism parents. And all I can give you often is just my own experience. What's worked with me doesn't mean it's going to work with everybody. But certainly just to have that kind of, connection and saying, we're going through similar things. And I've already been through a lot of it.
Well, you guys keep up the good fight. Keep Sebastian's name out there. Don't listen to the riffraff. It's insane. Follow what law enforcement's putting out. Okay. Because they're really the only ones. Well, I have a feeling someone else has answers, but that person isn't going to tell us. Let's see where the investigation goes. I want a big round of applause for Julie at JulieProufoundAutism. Make sure you subscribe. Go check her out. She's an awesome person.
And I want to say personal thank you to you, Brooks, for inviting me, for being so kind. You're being just as my as people who follow me subscribe. I keep using the wrong words. Described you. Very kind, very nice, so welcoming. And I'm, been on TikTok a long time, but new to YouTube. And you always remember the people who helped you when you first get to a new job or a new place. And so I am very grateful, and I will be eternally grateful to you for being so nice and open to me.
Absolutely. And
it says something about you as a person who, gives somebody like me a chance.
Anytime. The door is always open. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Be safe tonight. Those that are going to go out and ring in the new year. I want to say thank you to all the donations to the channel, longtime members. You all, and I will give Mama She's information to you, Julie. Again,
do you have plans tonight, Brooks? Are you doing anything fun?
I'll probably order Taco Bell and go to bed with my cat.
There you go. Yeah, we will be staying in as well, as per usual. Actually, my husband used to call it amateur night because there's a lot of drunk drivers on the road. People who aren't used to partying, getting drunk or whatever, drinking, and there's a lot of accidents. So please be careful if you do go out, because it is amateur night. It is people who aren't used to doing this stuff. Not that you should be used to doing it, but Wait, Jenny. Who's Jenny?
Jenny, my girl Jenny. She came around with the Summer Wells case. Absolutely adore her. She's great. We exchange Christmas cards, the whole 9 yards. We have a lot of.
I know someone who has her last name. That's why I just saw the name come up, and I said, I know somebody up here in Jersey, same last name. I was like, is this person who I know? Sorry. Yeah.
Well, happy New Year, everyone. Happy New Year. And going forward with Sebastian's case, let's please, at least on this channel, what people do on other channels, that's totally up to them, but it doesn't help his case. The riffraff does not help. And that is my closing thoughts for today. Happy 2025, you all, and I will see you back here tomorrow at 9 a.m. We're out, Julie.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.